Today we're redesigning this weird campground selection interface that helps people find a campsite to sleep at when they want to go to a state park here in Georgia. I'm actually going to camp right after this video. Here we've got the style guide as always, and we've made a couple of little tweaks specifically to the main accent color, and that's because the color they're using looks like puke. And although it seems like they're trying to go for like a fall outdoorsy aesthetic, this particular shade of green doesn't really inspire me to want to do anything in the outdoors. So we're taking the same idea, but we're using a much more natural looking green hue that appeals to positive emotion instead. For those of you that are interested in how I came up with this color, I just use a site called Coolers, I believe it's called, and I cycle through lots of different iterations until I see a shade or a hue of green that really catches my eye. Then I lock it in and try to find complementary colors as well. In terms of typography, we've swapped them over to Cuesta Sans, which is a nice rounded modern font. It feels very friendly too, which is kind of the vibe you should probably be going for if you're trying to encourage people to come and risk their lives in the wilderness. Of course, here's the stories as well, everything I want to achieve in this UI. Nothing crazy, just a simple little search interface, but we're gonna get stuck in and see what we can come up with. One of the biggest problems with the existing UI was that the header navigation took up like 2 inches of vertical space before providing any meaningful content to the user. So we're simplifying this a lot, making the logo significantly smaller, and then taking up all that white space to the right of the logo with the actual navigation links themselves. For the account menu, I would imagine most people don't actually upload a profile picture, so we're just using the standard template and we are using their initials as a simple little avatar for them in lieu of a photo. The existing site had the name of the campground very tiny in the middle of the screen somewhere, so it took me a while to realize what I was looking at. Why not just make the name itself enormous so that the users can immediately see what it is with a backdrop potentially of what the campground looks like to build some emotional excitement about actually camping there. I want to underscore here that it's almost never a good idea to have a homepage hero be a carousel of different images. The only time when I feel it's acceptable is when you're really trying to get the user emotionally invested in something which is already visually quite beautiful. Then you can just show them lots of imagery and get them hooked that way. A nice little trick I like to use when I'm working with big hero images is very specifically placing the hero image such that the focal point is not obscured by anything in front of it. This really has a significant impact, as you can see here, because the visual attention is on the text and it's accented by the visual center of the image to the right. So we have a bit of a conundrum here. We do have a lot of text that we want to show the user, descriptions, details, and geography details, but we also don't want to just totally overwhelm them with text. We also have a lot of horizontal space to fill up, so why not break things up into a main sidebar relationship where we have the bulk of the content on the left, but then little snippets of unique information on the right for them to consume. Of course, for boomers like myself, whenever you're looking to reserve somewhere, sometimes you just kind of want to call someone and get it all arranged that way. It also helps figure out the context of what it's like to camp in an unknown place. So floating the contact information to the top because it's the most relevant. And now we're just throwing some user reviews at the bottom here. Whenever you're trying to influence someone to do something, social proof is an absolute must. And having glowing reviews from other visitors to Cloudland Canyon is going to get me to click that book a campsite button. Now that we've got the easy part out of the way, we're going to start building out what the flow might look like for actually booking a campground. Now, of course, what do I need to do when I'm booking a campground? I need to see some kind of understanding of the availability, select a campground, and then continue through the flow that way. So starting out by just getting some details from the user and showing them a list of available campsites. I want to try something different here. We're going to pause briefly and take a look at this card. And I want to ask you if you know right now, what is wrong with this card? What is it not doing that it should be doing in terms of the functional design for the user? Leave a comment below with your thoughts and I'll explain what I think in the next couple of minutes. As you can see, I'm really struggling with the card design. This one was a little tricky for me, and I think that there's a couple of fundamental problems here. The first is that it's hard to determine availability when you're looking at a list of cards. You can't really compare one to the other very well, so the card is fundamentally probably not the best medium for this. It should likely be in a table. The second issue is that the thumbnail is way too big. There's really no need to see a huge picture of the campsite. They all probably look somewhat the same, and it's taking up valuable real estate that could be used for other things like important metadata. And finally, from the perspective of the user, you probably want to know where the campsite is located within the campground, as opposed to see a picture of it, right? So I think a map view would make more sense here as opposed to showing a list of cards. Information about the campsites aren't necessarily useful on their own. They need some additional context, and in this case that context is my arrival and departure date, because if I know that, I can then know which campsites are available for me and then pick only the ones that are options for me. So we're getting some simple filters in here, as well as letting the user select a specific kind of preference for their campsite, primitive or a more glampy setup. And I think that will speed up the time it takes for users to ultimately select a winning campsite. Oftentimes I feel inclined to use a drop-down when I'm selecting a number. For instance, I'm selecting 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 days. But I've learned over time that it's a much better UI when you can get away with it if you replace the options that would have been in the drop-down with just a series of buttons instead. This also translates really well to mobile, where using drop-downs is a huge pain. You can just tap on the screen to select the number. Here you can tell from the borderline constipated faces I'm making that I'm just not satisfied with the map layout. It just makes it too hard to compare things, and you can really only see one campsite at a time. So we're going to swap over to a table layout and perhaps give the user a way to toggle between a map and a table if they want to do more direct comparisons. And now, as you can see, we've got rid of those dirty cards and we're using a really nice clean table layout, which makes it very easy to compare the different campsites to each other. Okay, we're done. This was, I think, my longest raw recording time of any redesign I've done so far. And I still am not satisfied with how it turned out. There's just still little things I want to improve. But nonetheless, I think this is a significant step forward where you're kind of drawn into the UI and you just kind of want to engage with it. Everything's much simpler to navigate up top as well. Really nice imagery. Coming down here, all the metadata is organized neatly now. I can easily scroll through all of this if I want to, or I can do the thing I want to do, which is book a campsite and then interact with all the controls here to actually find one that meets my needs and then get it booked. Now there's two things that this UI still doesn't do well, and I scribbled them down on the back of this envelope. And that's, number one, it's difficult to see availability for the individual campsites. I just kind of have to say, hey, I'm coming on September 8th. Is there anything available? I can't just look at a calendar. And I think that's definitely a missed opportunity here. I could have designed a calendar interface that people could use to select their dates. But it's also quite difficult to figure out exactly where this individual campsite is located. For example, if I wanted to go to campsite 8, is it close to the bathroom? Is it near the campsite? I don't really know. And a map view would probably make more sense here. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. Let me know what you would change in the comments as well. But a good designer's job is never done. You just have to decide when you're going to stop, and it's late on a Saturday. I'm going to stop there. Hope you found some meaning in this one, guys, and have a wonderful week.